Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on your time zone. Hi, I'm Charlie Smith.
And I'm Allyn Aston, and welcome to the Britney Army Barracks.
We are recording this on Monday, September 4th. Happy Labor Day weekend to all of our fellow Americans, and happy Monday to everyone else. I want to get right into it today. Do you know anything about the Solis guy?
No, because I saw that they outed his name and that there's been a lot of speculation about him and that he used to work at the house, but I felt kind of the same as you in that it was really invasive and weird, so I made it a point not to look into him or really care too much.
Yeah, me too.
Because I just felt weird about the whole thing, and I just think it's fucked up she can't go hang out with somebody without them, like, putting his rap sheet in an article. I just don't like that.
And how the fuck is she going to get on any other friends? You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even want that, dude. Like, people look too close at my shit. I'd be like, ugh, you know? Not that I have a fucking criminal record. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, you can't even be a friend of Britney Spears without the world, like, coming at you.
And do you want to know what I really think about that guy and the situation in general? I doubt they're dating. I don't care if they are, but I doubt they are. What I think is probably happening is that she tried to strike a friendship up with him when he was working for her, and Sam was like, I'm not comfortable with this. So she tried to be respectful and said, all right, cool, we won't be hanging out. My husband's not comfortable with this. And now her husband is out of the picture, and so she can hang out.
I think that's true. And were you the one that was saying that the girl in the horseback riding video is probably her assistant?
Yeah, that's what I think. I've been told.
Yeah.
She has 3 new assistants is what I've been told by somebody who claims to know. So I don't know. That's just gossip, though, because I can't confirm shit.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm at the point now where, like, I feel like I'm getting into a good rhythm of that balance of, like, I'm not trying to gossip. I want to report on things that are definitive and theorize on things that are respectful and speculate where it makes sense too. But I've just been getting very frustrated with not the movement, but people's shitty behavior, especially around the tattoos. Like, I'll admit, when I saw that she was getting a tattoo, right out the gate, it made me nervous. I got my first and only tattoo in my own living room, sitting in the same position that Britney was in when she was getting the one on her back. So immediately I started projecting and being like, oh, like, what if she regrets this and whatever? But that's not necessarily the case. B, it's so light. She could cover that so easily. I kind of speculate that's why it's light colored and on her back. I put mine on my neck so I wouldn't have to look at it if I didn't like it. And I think it's probably just her being like, I just want to show my freedom and just do whatever she wants and be kind of wild for a bit. But I would be lying if I said that I thought it was great. You know what I mean? It did make me concerned.
Yeah. The whole tattoo situation is just so weird to begin with, because it also seems that she added a star tattoo on her forearm in the same location where the tattoo time video happened. And that was back in, I want to say, January. We never saw that tattoo ever, even though we saw a video of her allegedly getting it. And now we see that she definitely has one there, which she did say in that caption, like, I hate it. It's ugly. I need to fix it. So maybe she's been covering it with makeup and skin smoothing filters and whatever, and she fixed it.
Do you think there's any chance that all of the content that we have seen is old? Because even the paparazzi footage from now going back to January, we haven't got any, like, really good, clear, close-up pictures of her, especially not her back. But I don't remember seeing something where we definitively saw her arm. It was definitively in real time. And to tell you the truth, although I have been very more pro-Britney, less conspiracy lately, at no point have I thought we were seeing stuff in real time. Like, none of it. I haven't thought, until she made the video about referencing the slap in Vegas. That's when I started being like, maybe this isn't real time.
I think we might get a mix of stuff, and it's hard sometimes to differentiate what that mix is. And it's possible that this stuff is older, but to me it's a little unlikely because we haven't seen these tattoos ever anywhere. And we would have seen that star tattoo in the chicken photos. She was wearing a sweater. She was wearing a long sleeve sweater. That's my point. You know what I mean? Like, if anytime we have seen her, so it's not a matter of, like, is she dead? Like, of course she's not dead. But, like, it's not a matter of that so much as I don't know that we have seen that part of her body definitively in real time. And I saw, I think it was Britney Mystery page, also had a picture of, have you seen the hotel rooms? Like, not with Britney, but if you go to the different resort sites, not that I'm recommending people do it, but I've seen pictures of the rooms, and they're almost identical
Dude, they're almost identical. The one that was in Puerto Rico and one in Cabo, right? I think you were the one that explained the two different spots to me. Somebody posted the pictures and they look like the same fucking place. Like the hanging on the wall is different, but it's like nearly fucking identical.
Yeah, I mean, I do think for sure we've been getting some footage that are from older trips, but my gut, I just feel in my gut this stuff with the tattoos is newer simply because we've never seen it. So when you ask me, do I think that all of the footage is old and we're just seeing it now? I think I would have said yes a couple of months ago. That is how I felt a couple of months ago. But then when we started getting the footage from, or the pictures from the fans and the videos from the fans of her being in Cabo and stuff, I really started to feel like that was real. And unless they've gone and somebody's planted all these with all these different people, then I have to believe that some of it is current because that stuff was matching the outfit she was wearing on Instagram during that time.
I think the videos are probably stockpiled for a reason that makes sense to Britney. I don't have any theory even on what it could be. I remember at one point I made a YouTube video that I ended up like retracting. Basically, I took it offline because I was theorizing that maybe she was having plastic surgery and she didn't want people to know, and she wanted to kind of like keep things looking as if they were moving forward so people would not speculate on her body. And then A, after the fact, I felt like a fucking asshole. And B, I only even say that because I feel like it's important to hold yourself accountable. You know what I mean? I'm not going to pretend like I didn't make that video. I totally made it. If there is a logical reason that she is stockpiling footage, editing her footage or whatever, it's not our business. I mean, it just really has nothing to do with us. It's not something that we should be picking apart. What bothers me is that it feels like if it is Britney, it does sort of feel like she's fucking with us, at least a little bit. Like it feels like if she is the one in control of her Instagram, she's aware that we're all nervous that she's not okay, I would assume. I mean, that's an assumption, you know, we can't know that. But if she's running it like and seeing the content and seeing our comments, I mean, the comments were on the other day. And I would have to assume she's at least aware that we're concerned. So it bothers me a little bit that I can't tell if the cryptic posts are directed towards her fans that are speculating or specific people in her life. But more often than not, it feels like it just doesn't have to do with us and we are observers, you know, by proxy, I guess it would be called.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time, I was thinking in my mind, they have all this stockpiled footage of her from just COVID times and being home and having not much to do. And she was filming a lot then. And they're just like whipping it out when it's convenient. But then there started to be things that have time stamped, like the Cabo videos. And then now she wears that little ring that she got in Cabo on that trip all the time. And I actually feel like that's really intentional to let us know, hey, this is newer or whatever. But then there's still cases where I feel like we're seeing old stuff packaged as new. And my best example of that would be when she came out and made the 2 videos about her book. The one where she's like, hope you enjoy the book. I went to a lot of therapy to complete this. It's coming out soon. It really looked to me like a lot of the footage I had seen around the Hold Me Closer time when she was the one video she made about Hold Me Closer and a couple of other things she made during that time. And it really looked to me like the Britney of that time. And that would have made sense because that was when she was finished writing her book. So I do feel like those were old videos that she made right when she finished writing it, not when it got announced when it was coming out. But it makes sense that they were holding on to it because they don't want to be like, enjoy the book, but there's no publishing date. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they like made that 3rd video that was her talking about the slap, and it was in the same exact video, but the lighting was completely different. The way she looked was completely different. It was kind of the same outfit, but actually the skirt was shorter and didn't have the belt loops that the other one had. And I noticed these things and I was like, okay, so they filmed this and they told her to get into this outfit from those old videos to corroborate the timeline. Why did they feel like they needed to do that?
That's really interesting. I never noticed that about the skirt. That's interesting.
Yeah, and I never made a video on it because I was kind of on a mental Britney break at that time, but it was just something I clocked. But I was dealing with my grandma dying and all that stuff, so I was like, I just can't deal with this right now. But it's always been in the back of my mind.
That's wild. I never noticed that. I'm going to have to, as soon as we get off here, I'm going to go and check that out.
Yeah, compare the skirts. And it was weird that they posted 2 videos about the book. And it was her saying the same exact thing, except in the second one, she looked a little wackier because she was being more playful and dancing around and singing the Kokomo song. And then Sam is like, too much, too much.
Oh my God, that drives me crazy.
But they left that one up, I think, and took the other one down.
That's weird. That's very weird.
And I mean,
whoever's running
I don't know,
account.
Britney,
right.
Somebody
whoever's managing it.
I don't know.
Then we also saw her horseback riding with her top off, which to me is like right on. You know what I mean? Like very cool. I don't really feel like the majority of people feel that way when they see something like that. But there was a lot that she posted specifically in the last week that felt like her trying to, show her freedom and show that she's actually in charge of stuff. And I really do interpret it that Sam has been stifling her. I think that she either had him literally as part of controlling her Instagram, like he could have been one of the people managing it or whatever, but it also could be a matter of just, your boyfriend or husband just kind of influencing you a little bit and being like, that's lame, don't put that out there, and you don't. Or like how he would tell her she wanted to go down to the beach at one point and he was like, no, don't. So now she doesn't have somebody doing that. So she's going out for chicken at midnight. She's going horseback riding with her top off. She's getting that new assistant. She's getting tattoos. Like, she doesn't have her kids in her care right now. She doesn't have a husband to stop her from doing anything. So I don't really understand why people kind of act like she's going off the deep end. And I mean, not that people have, I don't really listen to anybody anyway, but like, I feel like there's been some sort of narrative that like these tattoos, like, look, she's going crazy again. And it's just like, I don't understand why people can't just let her live her version of freedom. And even if she was ruining her life, dude, like, so, you know what I mean? Like, there's people with tattoos on their fucking face. Like, I don't understand why she can't just sleep with a guy with a criminal record or have a fucking tattoo put on her back. Like, none of these things are illegal. So people acting like she's deranged drives me fucking crazy.
Yeah, and I think, there's a lot of debate, obviously, about the state of her mental health and what it means when she does these things. And I think we do try to avoid those things because we're not doctors. We don't have her medical information. Despite what's been leaked to the press, that's not even a fact. We don't know. So I don't even want to put out what I'm seeing people saying about it. But,
Right.
What I was going to say is that it's also possible that Britney is just very bored right now.
I kind of think so too.
And she's just seeking thrills. Like, what is she? She's not necessarily working on anything. I mean, there's claims that she is, but we don't really know. Doesn't seem like she is. And then she's got her book coming, but that's written. She doesn't have to do any more work on that. So her husband's gone. She's got an empty house. Like, maybe she's just looking for thrills.
Did you also see the reports that Sony apparently is offering her $5 million just to get back in the studio?
Yeah, I saw $4 million, but I did see those reports.
I just briefly looked at it before we hopped on here. Do you know anything about what they're saying?
It seems really vague. I actually just read this article about this, and basically they were like, yeah, Sony's offering her $4 million just to get in there and record vocals. They're definitely throwing something together. There's a project coming for sure, but they don't know what it is yet. It might be a greatest hits. It might be a greatest hits with a couple of new tracks, but also Britney's been writing about the struggle she's been going through with Sam for years, and so there's definitely new stuff coming. It was all over the place. It felt to me like not a real plan.
I don't understand why they can't just give the situation some space. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just wish they would let her, even the conservatorship, like all of it. And the only thing that they seem to give space to is the actual trial.
Yeah.
They get invasive on her relationships. They talk about her family. They talk about everything under the sun except the fucking trial and whether or not she's going to get justice. And it makes me nervous that she never fucking will, really.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. My opinion is that they're trying to manipulate her into doing another project, and they're hoping that eventually if they just say it enough, she's going to be like, yeah, I have to now. And it could be possible they're trying to manipulate her into not paying attention to the trial and focusing on this.
Oh, that's a good theory, dude. I never even fucking thought of that. I'm also I'm really nervous about the divorce lawyer too. Laura Wasser was getting likes from Lou Taylor on her content on Instagram. And I don't know if they're friends or follow each other, but Britney's divorce lawyer being friendly with Lou Taylor is unbelievably problematic. I mean, I don't even have to explain. If you're listening to this show, you know why that's problematic. But I'm really concerned with this divorce lawyer. And with Matthew Rosengart, it was easier for me to say, you know what? Politics in the legal field in California, I don't know how that goes. Like, let's give this guy a chance. But Laura Wasser seems like a fucking problem. And I was also looking, I am going to be so mad at myself if it was you and I'm like quoting you to you. But but I was looking up the fact that Laura Wasser also gets mentioned by TMZ often and even has a nickname, the Disso Queen. I don't know what that reference means, but DISSO-Queen. In like when they reference her, TMZ gets the exclusive XYZ whatever from Laura Wasser more than once.
No, I haven't heard that. Why does Britney want this woman as her lawyer?
That's what people are like, really, like, this is a fucking red flag. Like Laura Wasser, supposedly. And now here I've explained this about a couple of different areas, like Lou Taylor and the money, in religious organizations. That's another one that I know there's something there. I don't know how to find the answers to it, but I know there's something there. Laura Wasser is a Hollywood lawyer. Like, I don't know how many lawyers there are in Hollywood. Like, who the fuck knows? If she's the best lawyer for divorces and happens to be friends with Lou Taylor, I'm not one to say that those two things have to be connected to each other. But logically, I can't see how they could not be relevant to each other.
And I'm not even saying this to be like, Britney's not free. She doesn't get to choose these things. I'm saying there's almost no chance that Britney handpicked this woman to be her lawyer, because she's not going to do that. And most people don't even do that. They go to, if she already has a lawyer, which she does, Rosengart, she goes to her lawyer, Rosengart, and says, I need a divorce. Who do I go to? And Rosengart says, let me pass you on to my friend Laura. And that's probably how they got connected in the first place, I would imagine. Or somebody else on her team did this research for her and said, this is who we found, here's who she is, you good with her? And she goes, yeah, but that doesn't mean she knows about the Lou Taylor stuff, and I highly doubt she really researched her. I feel like she has people to research for her.
Well, so I'm trying to look it up right now, but from what I remember, I believe Britney has worked with Laura Wasser in the past. Actually, yeah.
And it went bad.
Right? But that's my point, is that I don't understand why a lawyer that fucked something up for her before, if Matthew Rosengart was like, here, trust me, like Britney, I would think would be like, no, she lost me my fucking custody of my kids. You know what I mean? Like, she was Britney's lawyer through the whole Kevin thing, and she got taken through the fucking ringer.
But wait, hang on Laura Wasser, I want to say, I don't know if she necessarily lost her custody of the kids, because she quit in the middle of the trial with her, or whatever situation they were involved in. Laura quit on her because Britney wasn't showing up to court, I believe, on the dates that she was supposed to. So she said, you're on your own. And I think somebody else took over after that. So maybe even though it didn't go well when they worked together, maybe Britney was like, yeah, well, I didn't do my part, so I don't know.
And those are the kind of things that are really important to know the difference. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because if people are like, Britney fired her before, as opposed to this lady was like, hey, man, if you're not going to show up to court, then sorry.
Yeah. I can't even remember where I read that now. It was just like something I looked up when we first heard. In 2007, the lawyer actually resigned months after she'd been hired to help the pop star divorce her backup dancer turned husband, Kevin Federline. Yeah, so she resigned in the middle of the divorce trial. But there were reports that Britney wasn't showing up to her court-mandated appearances and things. So I have a feeling, even though I don't think I saw Laura say, she's not showing up, so I quit. I have a feeling that's probably part of why, though.
And I want to know more about Laura's relationship with TMZ. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I'm going to have to look into for an episode down the road, too, as the divorce progresses. And hopefully it's going to be really low-key. I doubt it will be. I honestly think the way that we see Sam's career going, he can't afford for that divorce not to be a big spectacle. Nobody gives a fuck who he is. No one outside of our community knows who the fuck he is. You know what I mean? And I hate that I can see exactly what he's doing. It feels like I can see his master plan. And of course, it's just speculation. But seeing him show up to these SAG protests and giving comment and being like, I have as many jobs as Leo DiCaprio. So do I, motherfucker. Yeah. Give me a goddamn break. Oh, my God. And it's calculated. It feels really fucking calculated. He wasn't showing up to those protests before the divorce, and he hasn't been speaking out about it. I don't even think he follows Fran Drescher, who is the president of SAG-AFTRA. Like, he's virtue signaling. He's using the fucking strike to promote himself. He doesn't have a project right now, but he's promoting himself, and it's absolutely disgusting.
Well, are we surprised? Because it's the same man who wore the Free Britney shirts but didn't tell her about Free Britney.
Oh my God.
It's the
oh
same.
my God. Every time I think of that, every time I think of the fact that he didn't tell her about Free Britney, I just think of him with that shirt on. It's just maddening. What I think is even funnier too, that he's now like exploiting the fucking strike, is that half of the things, like one of the major points that they will not budge on is the use of AI. And that's like the only project that I can remember he's done in the last year, other than some shit movie with Mel Gibson, was that dating thing.
Mr.
Where it was
Right?
just him being AI. Mr. Right. It's like, okay, so you're all Mr. Picket Line, except also you're all about AI. Like, that makes no fucking sense to me at all. That's really frustrating. He pisses me off. I just really don't like the fact that I feel like the only thing he's known for yet
Mr.
is
Britney Spears.
being Britney's husband. Yeah, Mr. Britney Spears, right? And anybody who follows Britney closely knows he's been a shithead to her for a really long time. As far as I'm alleging that. That's what I think, in my opinion. I have not liked the way he's treated her, spoken to her, or talked about her for a really long time. And like, I've seen these different comments of people being like, oh, he's finally gotten away from her. It's just like, he is nothing without her. You know what I mean? Like, he's literally nothing. And I'm so afraid that he's going to do like the Vanderpump thing. Like, I'm so afraid he's going to become a celebrity, and like his sisters are going to be celebrities. Like, it has driven me crazy. Anytime somebody messages me and they refer to one of his sisters by first name only, as if I give a fuck or know who they are.
I actually,
like, it drives me.
You just put an idea in my head. I cannot believe I haven't thought about this, but like, I really think he probably is going to do a reality show. That's going to make a lot of sense. Yeah. And I think that does not go against the SAG strike, because reality is not unionized. So those shows can still film. That's why we got so much reality TV during the writer's strike back in the early 2000s, whenever that was. That's why we had so much reality TV, because that stuff can keep going. And so it would not shock me at all to hear that he's going to go on some kind of reality show. And honestly, he would be a really good investment for that, because people are the most interested in him right now as they're ever going to be in his whole entire life.
No, it's true. I mean, like, because, I make jokes about his weak chin and his obsession with his watch, but like, he's genuinely not a charismatic guy. I mean, he's just not. He has the personality of a mosquito, if you ask me. And I don't really, as silly as it's going to sound, I don't really mean that being nasty. Like, does he have a six-pack? Sure. You know what I mean? Is he like a puppet that somebody like Maxie or whoever can be like, hey, say this, and he's like, hey, say this? Like, yeah, I think he's a good representation of what Hollywood kind of values. But that's not a good thing. Like Hollywood reinforces being vapid and shallow, and having more concern about the way that you look than what your character is. And Sam, as you even just mentioned, didn't even fucking tell Britney about the Free Britney movement. Like, even if they were being surveyed, even if there was surveillance being used and all this stuff with their relationship, he could have wrote a note. He could have whispered in her ear. There is no fucking way. You can tell me you can be with a person for 6 years who doesn't have legal authority over their life and just not mention that there was a movement of people, a campaign, no less, and never mentioned it. And between that, and I will always go back to the sighting of Britney and Sam leaving.
It's Westlake.
Westlake. They were leaving Westlake Easter 2019, and she was completely lethargic on lithium. You could see how dazed she is, and he escorted her right in the car. And to come and find out and to hear her voice later tell us that she needed help. She was in trouble at that point, and she was being held against her will, and he was the one physically putting her in the car, allowing this to happen. He could have leaked it. He could have leaked it to somebody. You know what I mean? Could have said something. Hey guys, make a movement about this. He didn't do anything as far as we can tell.
Not only that, though, he went on the record and said, I'm so proud of my wife for checking herself in and getting the help she needs, and like made it sound like she was on a self-care discovery journey, just like having the best time and doing all the right things. But meanwhile, we found out she didn't want any of that, and she was freaking out the whole time. We saw the text messages she was sending to people saying, they're trying to kill me. They're trying to give me twice as much Seroquel as should be okay to give me. She was texting her friend Jansen, who was like Googling these medications for her. so that she could get help because she felt in her gut it was too much. She didn't feel good on it.
Yeah.
And Jansen was like giving her information on like what was safe and like what lithium toxicity looks like. But definitely they were trying to double her dose of Seroquel.
That's terrifying. And again, I can't help but be almost reassured, as weird as it sounds, by the report saying that Britney is now supposedly, yet nothing we hear from the tabloids we can know for sure, but supposedly Britney is articulating that she always thought that Sam was in cahoots with her dad, or I guess that was something that people are saying that they used to fight about very often. I found it was funny, the report, that people were like, yes, she screamed at Sam all the time. And it's like, oh, well, I think it was WTF
Yeah,
being
we call her T.
T. Okay, so T posted a thing being like, oh, Sam was yelling at Britney. Like, let's see what this was about. And then immediately after, it's like that he was working with Jamie. Like, what the fuck? Like, that's not yelling at your husband abusively. That's standing up for yourself when you're pretty sure somebody is in cahoots with someone against you. Like, how could Britney not be the most paranoid person on this planet? I couldn't imagine having your dad, your husband, your manager. Like, it really almost freaks me out because it's just like, I want her to get better. And yet I keep seeing the media doing the same thing they did in 2007. And it just feels like it's getting worse and worse and worse. And again, one of the only things keeping me sane is like doing this every week and like, okay, come back to center. You know what I mean? Like, she is a person. We don't know what's happening. Like, there's no reason to assume that we have all the answers. But at the same time, I'm very concerned as we move forward with the divorce stuff. I think it's going to get way uglier before it gets better.
I agree. And I think like the news, I think if you think that it seems like things are spiraling now, you just wait until they're actually in this legal battle, because there's going to be smear campaign after smear campaign after smear campaign.
There's a lot of suspicious stuff happening right now, and it's all timed up in such a way that there's never a lull. So like, they got divorced. You know, the book comes out in October. The trial's coming in the spring of next year. And now supposedly we're going to see her getting back in the studio. And I just really wish at some point after the conservatorship, we could have just seen her going to like the Swiss Alps or like to fucking Greece or something and just like not be seen or heard from and just genuinely do some healing and yoga and whatever. And instead it feels like we're watching her in this constant back and forth with the media and her family and now Sam. And it has to be intentional. And at the same time, I just hope at some point we're going to watch her get some relief and get a break from all of this.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it before, but my wish for Britney is that if she doesn't want all this and just really wants to heal, I wish she would be allowed to just go away and do that and not have to deal with the Instagram and the news and all that. I think she's a beach girl. Put her in Turks and Caicos in a secluded little area and let her live her life and heal. That's what I wish she could do. But I feel like she can't because she still has contracts for work.
I don't think she's under contracts. I feel a lot of people have said that. I don't think that they can hold her to any contracts that were signed during the conservatorship. I think it would be very easy for her to get out of those. And even if it wasn't, she retired and nobody sued her. Like, they can't, like, she's not, I don't, like, even they're giving her $5 million to get back in the studio. They wouldn't be paying her if she owed them money, is like my logic. I, of course, know nothing about, you know, record contracts or anything. But I have to assume if she really needed to, like, get some stuff out like that, she could release more like remix things or like the stuff with will.i.am or whatever the fuck. Like, if they were like, you have to do 8 albums, so, you know, or whatever the thing is, I just have to believe that there would be ways for her to get around that to some degree. Like she could live anywhere and do those contracts. She doesn't have to be in California to do that. I mean, you and I are using equipment right now. You recorded your own album on, I'm pretty sure, the microphone you're talking on right now, right? So like, realistically, I can't imagine that she has to stay in Los Angeles. I think up until last month, the reason she was in LA was because of the boys. And now they're not there either. And then I think to myself, like, why doesn't she just leave? And it's like, but where would she go? Like, I think other than maybe like Greece or some like exotic island or something like that, like, she's not going to go back to Kentwood.
No.
At least I wouldn't. If I were her, I would rather stay in LA. You know what
And
I
I
mean?
thought about this all the time because I too don't understand why she stays in this home and doesn't go literally anywhere else. I mean, she was very traumatized here and held against her will and all kinds of, bugged, and her room was not allowed to change.
They took the doors off. Yeah, they took the doors off. Like I can't imagine putting the doors back on and then just like going about your life.
No. I think that house probably carries a lot of trauma, but at the same time, the only reason I could think maybe she doesn't leave this house is because she hopes by keeping her children's rooms intact and all their things intact that they'll one day want to come back home, because that was their home too. Not all the time, but 50% of the time, and maybe she doesn't want to take that from them in case they want to come back.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought of that. That's a good theory that she might be trying to preserve it for if the boys come back.
Yeah, because even when they bought that other house in Calabasas, the one that they bought was like down the street from the boys. So it seemed to me that was a priority, was trying to get close with them again. I'm not convinced they ever moved into that house. They claim they did. I really don't think they did. But they certainly never sold her original house or made any attempt to do so. So kind of, I don't know. I think maybe she's not willing to let go of that connection to them. But I almost wish she had moved into that neighborhood with them. Maybe things would be different.
I wonder if they got upset. I wonder if they were like, no, like, we don't want you closer. Because if they were already putting up these boundaries of like, we don't even want to speak to you, and then she bought a house right down the street from them, like, I of course take Britney's side on everything always, but having come from a family of divorced parents with a pretty rough relationship with specifically one of them, but both, I had, tumultuous relationships with my parents. If my dad or my mom had done that when I was a teenager, I would not have appreciated that. I just wouldn't. If I was like, I need space, and instead they moved next door, I would just be like, yeah, like, you're not hearing me. So I've often wondered if that might be why that house got resold. It also was sold to a man from Texas who is originally from Louisiana, which I find very suspicious, but there's not really any way we can tell if that has any real meaning. I very strongly theorize that there's a lot of suspicious shit with Britney's real estate dealings during the conservatorship. And, she's mentioned the house in Florida, her condo in Florida. I think maybe there's something weird there. And again, I don't have the education or the ability to really do any investigatory research, but those are the areas that I want fucking answers. I want to understand what happened with all these real estate dealings, and how, if she's like been so involved in real estate, is she left with virtually nothing. She has about $60 million, which is nothing in comparison to what she should have.
I think actually, if I have a friend Kat, and she has like some sort of list of all the properties I think that Britney had at one point, but there was a lot of stuff going on where Jamie was selling her properties like at a loss to Britney to family members, allegedly. So there was a lot of shady dealings that went on, but it seems like they have sold off most of those properties that she owned. Like, they sold off the New York apartment a year or two ago, and I think they sold something. Did they sell something to Jamie Lynn? I don't want to be making that up, but they definitely sold it to different relatives. And so I agree. There's a lot of shady business dealings when it comes to the Britney Spears properties. And she had a lot at one point, and there was like 15 of them or something.
And that's one that drives me crazy, because I want answers, and I genuinely don't know how to go about them, because it's like, why would they be selling them at a loss to family members? That's one. B, I don't know a single family member she's even on speaking terms with, let alone like to make enough sense for them to be like doing these real estate dealings. And it feels so blatant. Like, it kind of feels like the same with the conservatorship. The conservatorship, to me, it felt so blatant. Like, how can't everybody see how corrupt and exploitative this is? And it feels like the same thing, where I'm looking at the real estate things like, it looks like they're stealing her fucking money. Like, how the fuck is this not like on the front of the New York Times? Like, I don't understand why people don't give a fuck about that. And the other thing I was going to say was the religious stuff. I theorize, and I guess you could say I'm alleging, but I'm like, it's just a theory or an opinion. It seems like they were stealing her money through real estate, and it feels like they were cleaning that money or some other portion of the money through these religious organizations and foundations. And I want to know
through
what
the Britney Spears Foundation.
The Britney Spears Foundation. And I want to know what the fuck happened to the dance camp that Britney really cared about before the conservatorship. And she used to do a lot with dancers and children. She was a philanthropist. That's something that I really believe she wanted to do. I think that she wanted to really make a difference in the world. And not only did they steal that from her, I think they literally stole her money using that.
Oh, so do I. I've looked into that quite a lot, and it's a really dangerous thing to go looking too deeply into, because just the idea of cleaning money, there's a lot of people that wouldn't want that out there, but you can go through, there's a Breathe Heavy, not a forum, what do you call it? A thread. There's a Breathe Heavy thread that like goes through the entire history of what happened year by year with that foundation, and it will blow your mind. And it's like a lot of the years they were not declaring their money on the taxes.
What?
Yeah, and then almost every year it was changing hands. And so it was in Britney's name at the very beginning, and then it went over to like Brian Spears, and then Jamie Lynn Spears got added as like a chair or whatever. And Lou Taylor controlled it for a while. But pretty much every relative in Britney's nuclear family unit had their name at the head of that at one point.
Huh.
It was
That's
changing
really
around.
That's really interesting. And I'm so suspicious of that. I mean, even just Lou Taylor's connections to religious organizations in general is just so suspicious. It's such a moot point, I guess, at this point. I still have so many questions about the fucking trip that Jamie and Lou took to Israel on Britney's dime and didn't invite Britney to go. Like, not that Britney would want to go party with her fucking dad, Lou Taylor, but like, could you imagine? Like, oh my God, that's just... Anyway,
well, and the very final donation from the Britney Spears Foundation to any organization was to a religious organization that was run by friends of Lou and Rob Taylor. There was a connection there. I can't remember off the top of my head the exact name of the organization, but it was one geared towards women and like I think it was kind of anti-gay and very anti-abortion type stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a religious organization that has ties to Calvary Baptist Church, where Rob is the pastor.
Yeah.
And then shut down.
Oh, and then the Britney Foundation.
Yeah, they gave that last donation, and then it just shut down out of nowhere.
That's wild. I can't remember where I originally heard about the fact that there was a decent chance that Britney Spears' money was going towards conversion therapy, essentially. But that's when I heard that report. That was when I started to get a little more serious about like actually being like, I'm going to be a fucking advocate, because if this person who I have supported and contributed to their brand and whatever, and granted I didn't during the conservatorship, but I did up until then and I have since. But just knowing that somebody that I was supporting was getting screwed over and they were supporting conversion therapy. Like, I actively work in my community against that. And I'm really proud of the work that I do for the transgender community. And I can't really even describe the level of rage that gives me, that they very possibly were doing that, especially when Britney has done so much for the LGBTQ community. And she has always spoken highly and supportively of the community. And I think Britney dressing as a man on a Pepsi commercial might have been one of my first realizations that gender could be fluid. But seriously, I think that it's really important that we eventually get the answers to this.
It is disgusting that they were using that towards conversion therapy, and that's awful. But I think if we could get people to dig even further into that and get real answers, I suspect that we would find evidence, or, maybe it's been well hidden, but I suspect that there would somewhere be evidence that they were using Britney Spears' money, funneling it into that foundation, and then using that to pay off doctors and judges. Hey, we need to give Britney a dementia diagnosis to keep her in this conservatorship. Where do you think that money is coming from? It's probably being washed through something like the Britney Spears Foundation. And this is just my speculation. I have no inside information, but I do very strongly believe they were paying people to do these things.
I do too. I believe that too. I think that they've done it at least with doctors and lawyers. And
judges.
I think judges. That was what I was about to say too. I think it definitely could be as high up as that. And I think in California, especially, I think, again, this is kind of me just speculating, but I live in a state where there aren't nearly as many issues in the legal system, in the court system here in Massachusetts as there are in California. Now, we have our own problems here, of course, but it really feels like California has some serious fucking issues with corruption in their legal system. And eventually, you know, it's either going to get worse or it's going to get found out. And I think that's part of the hurdle in the Britney, you know, the Justice for Britney movement, is that it's not just a matter of, okay, we want people to know the truth about Britney. We can't really do anything about her situation or getting her justice unless we go so far deep into these areas that go beyond just some fucking family from the South that got involved in the music industry. Anybody chalking this up to, wow, her family, what a bunch of fucks. You know what I mean? Like, no, they were preyed upon. They were manipulated. Larry Rudolph had her walking through the streets in New York, going to different record producers when she was 14, 15, 16 years old. And I think for me, the long game of getting justice for Britney is about so many areas, like these fucked up religious foundations and the fucking justice system so much. And I think it's part of why it makes it so difficult to even try to cover it. You know what I mean?
There's just so many areas. You could talk about it all day, every day, and still not get down to the nitty gritty of everything, you know? It's stressful.
And that'll do it for the Britney Army Barracks. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.
People can take everything away from you,
but they can never take away your truth.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye, fuckers.
Bye, bitches.